So you have to ask yourself, are the many epic, vast, shocking announcements from Hot Toys that are up on pre-order, and the several from InART, are they all immune to the bargain bin? And if so, why? What makes them different from so many other prior releases, and some of them that are actually seemingly swimming within the bargain bin currently? And does more and more iterations of the same character, whether it's different versions or the same version of that character, does that water it down? Does that have anything to do with it? How do we feel about it as collectors? Do we want the latest and greatest in our collection? And are we okay with the prior versions not holding their value? Should we invest in this hobby like we were investing in a 401k? Is there a time where we got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them / sell them? And what's going on in the secondary market right now? Is it crashing? Or is it crashed, baby? Listen, I'm all out of wizard juice. Is there another version? You have to wonder. But let's go ahead and dive into it right now. All right, and welcome everyone to another episode of the Market Value Chart Show right here at 6 Scale Cantina. And just in case you don't know just who I am the Dark Jedi Aries Tarrington, about to serve up all the 6 Scale action figure talk. So please go ahead and smash that like button. I so do very much appreciate your support. And hey, don't forget to subscribe right here to 6 Scale Cantina. Again, thanks, baby, for your support. Look, are a lot of these figures here immune to the bargain bin? For some of you, it may seem like a very, very easy question, because lower supply equals higher demand. And a lot of these are going to be advertised with lower numbers, just like that Artisan Scarlet Witch right here, 2,500. Right off the bat, it's 2,500. And sometimes from some of these companies, you know what the production numbers are going to be, and some of them you can guess, and some are even getting serialized now, like with that quarter scale Golden Armor Iron Man that has a serialized to just 300 pieces, that exclusive, just from like last month. Are those figures immune from the bargain bin? Because certainly many of the other figures right now, and some that are still in stock at some comic and online stores, some comic shops and online stores, they seem to be perhaps not immune to the bargain bin, including some other figures that are long out of stock just about everywhere, but still seem to be kind of lurking in that bargain bin. Why? Why is that? And are these other ones immune? We're going to look at that within this episode for sure. And as we look into that, let's start with the first point that I want to bring up over here. Does different variations of characters, or the same versions of certain characters coming out, attribute to some of this stuff from past versions of these characters? So let's look at this right here. This is the new released from this weekend, InART Soups, Henry Cavill. And first, let me just say, this head sculpt is top-notch. Absolutely amazing. And I'll be honest with you, everything that InART is coming out with head sculpt-wise, and everything that Hot Toys is coming out with head sculpt-wise, seems to be at new levels. You know, when I look at this figure right here, and I'm looking at this, quite frankly, awesomeness. Look at the eyes, look at the eyebrows, look at the forehead, look at everything here with this particular figure. It's a masterpiece. And when you go ahead and take a look at some of the other figures that have recently also came out, like that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, or this Scarlet Witch Elizabeth Olsen figure. These head sculpts seem to be at another level I have not really seen before. And it started this year, you know, with the InART. It started very recently with the InART Joker, and then followed by the Ian McKellen Gandalf from InART. And then also, if you remember, Sasha Banks, Cosca Reeves, that Ming-Na Wen, Fennec Shan that came out this year from Hot Toys. Some of these figures that are just coming out, the recently released Tobey Maguire Spider-Man from No Way Home, that Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, that Electro, that Jamie Foxx from Hot Toys. How about that Black Panther from Hot Toys? So much heat. Forget about that Tamora Morrison Boba Fett from the 2-pack, or Boba and the Throne. Absolutely next level stuff. And certainly understandable when you're coming out with figures such as this. Does this hurt prior iterations of Elizabeth Olsen and Scarlet Witch? Because this is so next level, whether it's this artisan version or, quite frankly, the sculpted version. And the same thing can be asked about this right here. This Henry Cavill Superman, as I blow this up onto the screen. Will this hurt prior versions from Hot Toys on this particular figure? And you could take a look at the recent Lukes right now that have come out. Whether it is the Luke Skywalker from the Mandalorian Season 2 finale from Hot Toys, or that DX24, DX25 Bespin Luke. Have they hurt the prior releases of the Bespin Luke and the Return of the Jedi Luke? And I say they sure as heck did. They absolutely have been tanking those figures for sure. And will this Superman tank the prior versions? And I feel like every time there's an upgrade, especially of the same exact figure, it has a great effect on the prior versions. Take an instance on what Hot Toys is doing with those 2.0 Iron Mans they started with last year. They're showing you the new measurements, a little bit taller, a little bit closer to scale, all that kind of jazz right now. And are those new Iron Men hurting those old releases? And I also say, yes. So does that mean that with these being superior, like you're seeing right here with this Superman, and that is just awesome, and that is just awesome, or you're seeing with this Scarlet Witch, which is absolutely next freaking level stuff, or this Joker, which is absolutely just sensational, or this Anakin, which in my view, may be one of the greatest figure. I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so of course I'm going to think that way. But I feel like I'm looking right at as I said before, and I don't want to say it again, so let me say a Macy's instead of J.C. Penney catalog. Oh my freaking goodness. This is just next level. Will this hurt the other Anakins? And the quick and short answer is, and from all the trends that I see, is yes, 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 and yes. Look what the InART Joker did to the DX11 and those prior versions of the Heath Ledger Joker. It did bring those figures significantly down. Look what the DX24 and DX25 did to the DX07. It brought it significantly down. And when you couple that with these figures here being limited, and I mean super, super limited from when we were, there's data out there that shows that we were getting, on some small releases, 10,000 producing from Hot Toys, and on some high releases, anywhere from 20 to upwards of 60,000 actual units being produced. And right now, you're talking about the single thousands on mostly all of these figures, from what I can ascertain and put together right now from all of these. So you would think right off the bat, with two things here, with this being so next level, and whether it's a sculpted version or not, and for the life of me, why this doesn't come with a sculpted version is quite beyond my capacity, and I'm sure C-3PO's capacity as well. But at least with the other ones, there's been so far a sculpted version for most of these. You would think by putting those two factors together, so much lower production, and so much next level, that you're getting a whole arena FET effect. Certainly you're seeing that with the Warner Brothers 100 Wonder Woman, which for all intents and purposes is absolutely an artisan, except that they had to give the Warner Brothers 100 credit. That's the tag that they're using with that. They're still using, when they talk about the hair, that new wool technology and all that jazz, whatever. It's just not labeled an artisan, it's labeled Warner Brothers 100. And that figure is limited to 1,500 pieces. And you would think right now, like with all of these, and that is clear evidence, that one is selling more than the Dark Side Anakin. Actually, quite frankly, it's selling right up there with the 2-pack Han Solo and Chewbacca, right at this particular moment, with that Warner Brothers 100 Wonder Woman for sure. I mean, it is just absolutely off the charts. And trying to pull that up onto the screen to give you a little bit of insight into this, I'll pull this up. And first of all, Toys for Adults just about sold out. They've got one more, 3 sold at $949. $949. And 3 already sold. If you go to Tim Cent, he's completely sold out of these. And even if you go to the counter site there, and you go to Toys Buying Agent, completely sold out there, gone. You could look right here, out of stock, completely, on this particular figure. And you're starting to see this figure increase towards $1,000 2-pack level, because it's limited to 1,500. And it's the same thing going on right now with the Disney 100 6-scale Iron Man figure, which is having the same effect as well. And you can see right here, this one from Tim Cent, now 3 sold, $938. You've got the last one here, of course, this seller with 19,497 feedback. All 100% positive. And this is a complete 180 from some figures that are still in stock at some comic shops and are, at least at this point, easily available, going to a different type of Iron Man, looking at this one. And this one, I mean, so much under the retail price, and with 20 bids from another outstanding seller with 4,745 feedback, all 100% positive, just $265. It's not even a complete 180. It's almost like a different like warp speed. It went down a wormhole somewhere else, babe. So you're seeing some effects of the secondary market. But you would think then that these figures are, quite frankly, because of the low production numbers and their reliability, immune to the bargain bin. But again, as I said in the beginning, you do have to ask yourself, is that really, really the case, though, for the long haul? Let's go ahead and look at this Obi-Wan, for instance. This Obi-Wan, some will argue, looks like the best Obi-Wan Kenobi figure and head sculpt we've ever seen, this Clone Wars one. Certainly an upgrade from the Revenge of the Sith one. What if they take that particular head sculpt and instead of the Clone Wars, they do put it on Revenge of the Sith, and it does come in an artisan, and it somehow does get upgraded, and it looks real, like you're looking right at Ewan McGregor, just like you're looking with the real hair on some of these amazing InART or Hot Toys figures with now coming out with the hair. And if they do come out with a figure that's superior to that, will it affect this Clone Wars one? Or quite frankly, if they just put it out with the Clone Wars line, it just give you another version of that. And let's go to this Superman. So this one will tank a lot of the old Superman. But what if Hot Toys, and even a step further, InART, come out with an even improved version, whenever that is, in a few years, couple years, 5 years, or Hot Toys probably very, very soon, with an upgraded version, just like they did with that Joker. Which some argue is better than the InART. Now, I'm not going to get into that here. Honestly, it's so close. It is so close. It's like comparing, Wizard Juice to TK FOMO Juice. Whatever. It's close. It's close, it's close, it's close. It's like comparing Van Halen to AC/DC, Led Zeppelin to The Who. I don't know. It's close. It's close. The Beatles to the Rolling Stones. It's... I don't know. Anyway, besides that, whatever company does it with Superman Henry Cavill, if it surpasses this one, what does it do to this one? If they come out with an Obi-Wan that surpasses this Clone Wars Obi-Wan, what does it do to that? You're already starting to see some of the prior versions of the Scarlet Witch go this way. What if there's an improved version of the Scarlet Witch that even blows this one away? Which I don't even know how you can do. And I don't know how you can do even better than that Superman. But I didn't know how you could do much better with Tobey Maguire until Hot Toys put out the Spider-Man 3. Are you kidding me? How good it looks. And you could look at this Wolverine that's also on this banner. And you could say to yourself, that's the best looking Hugh Jackman Wolverine I've ever seen in the history of my life. It is incredible. It's awesome. It's just next level. It's, the best figure I've ever seen. It's making me spill my coffee. I'm speechless. I don't know what I can do. And then all of a sudden they're going to give you that Wolverine. Can you imagine Wolverine as an artisan? And if they do the hair right, oh my flipping goodness. And I'm sure that they'll all offer a sculpted version But you know where I'm going here. And especially if it's from the same darn Days of Future Past or whatever that one is, it could kind of hurt it. It could kind of hurt it. And it could do damage to it. The same thing, especially with the Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield one. He's got the hair, baby. Where you could do an artisan version, and right now that one seems like it's immune to the bargain bin. It really, really does. And then what happens if out of nowhere that Amazing Spider-Man gets offered up as an artisan exclusive version? Will it affect that one? Will it make, and especially if it actually looks better, which I would think if they do put it out, I mean, this one would be, honestly, I think pretty amazing looking if they were able to kind of figure out a way to do it as an artisan. He certainly has that poofed out, poofy hair. What does that do to this? And my point is with all of this, you're seeing it a lot with the Black Series when it comes to Hasbro. New photoreal technology, and they keep improving on a lot of the figures from the past and the ones that were rare, and you see so many of those figures now that are just in the bargain bin. They're no longer collectible. They were collectible and highly sought after then, and now there's just better versions that look more realistic, that have better articulation, that have just better. And they're increasing in value while those other ones are decreasing in value. Again, as I've been talking about over the last several weeks, cause and effect. For every action, there's an equal and opposing reaction. Look, I'm going to be quite plain with you. The announcement of the DX24 and DX25 doesn't make the DX07 increase in value, as much as you may want it to. And as much as I've heard arguments, and I've heard them, that the DX07 is superior, that's a limited opinion. And it's just not happening on a mass scale. And it's going down the tubes in value. It has value, but it doesn't have the value it once was. It once had. And honestly, if they come out with an artisan version of Luke, this is what I'm talking about, and it's Bespin, unless it's exclusively battle damaged and doesn't have a regular clean version, it's going to greatly affect the DX24 and 25, even though that is already on waitlist because it's an upgrade. And these are not having, at least to this point, intrinsic value like if you had a Corvette Stingray, which is inferior in every way to the Corvettes they're coming out with today, but has some intrinsic, has some nostalgia to it that makes some of these old cars, hey, that 57 Chevy, baby, increase in value. You're not seeing that with the DX07 for Star Wars, even though that is the first ever Star Wars release from Hot Toys. That doesn't mean that won't develop for Hot Toys, because it's a very young company still. It's only still in its infancy within the first quarter part of its second decade. So it's a relatively young company and a relatively new concept to put out figures that quite frankly look as real as what you're looking at here. And that looks like Andrew Garfield. And that, my friends, is about as real as it gets. About as real as it gets until you start putting in real hair. Until you start putting in some things that look like it's going to come to life in some type of movie that is kind of really almost scary. Like Scarlet Witch right here, which looks just freaking incredible. Or like this Anakin, which looks just absolutely next level. Or like that Superman from InART, which is just absolutely crazy, crazy looking indeed. Or this Heath Ledger Joker. I mean, these are just even more improved upon than that Andrew Garfield one I had up earlier. And if they come out, and what does it do to Gamora? If all of a sudden Hot Toys was going to come out with a Gamora that looks like that Scarlet Witch, what does it do to the prior versions of this character? Does it have them go up? Or does it sink them down from the price they were? Do the old versions of Gamora act like that 57 Chevy? Or that 1973 Firebird? Or that 69 Camaro or whatever it is? Does it act like that? Or is it just in with the new, out with the old? And I think it's a really good question that I'm trying to bring us to here. I think for the short term, everything you're seeing up on the screen is immune to the bargain bin from the way things have been happening over the last couple of years. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's immune to the bargain bin for all eternity, or for even the next 5 years or 10 years. And you have to realize that as you're investing in these collectibles. You can see behind me over here, I've got, let's see if you can follow my finger. If you can see it in the background screen right there, you'll see I have the Warner Brothers 100 Wonder Woman, which is, I'm telling you right now, the highlight of my collection. And you can see her right here below. And then you can see that Superman below that on that little setup I have there for DC behind me. But when I went ahead and I invested in that Wonder Woman, I invested full on knowing that Hot Toys is going to put out many Gal Gadot figures, especially with the wool rooted hair and probably an accompanying sculpted hair version for the years to come. Because even with this version right here, we didn't get Rolling Eyes function. So that's something that they can add to another version of this. And probably with her in a different outfit, or alternate outfit, or with alternate accessories that's not a Warner Brother 100. And that one may improve upon this one. Plus, you're going to get an InART version. So we'll have to see how that one comes out. And then when the InART version comes out, whether Hot Toys came out with one already that improved on this, they may come out with another one, or may come out with that one then that improves on that. And then you have no idea if InART will come out with another one on top of that. And it keeps going. Again, how many prior versions of Luke? Or how many prior versions of Iron Man have come out? And now you've got some of those that are just, they were great back when they were great. And it was like, how do you get any better than this? Well, now we're seeing today with some of the Iron Men that are coming out, it can be better. And while we look at some of these head sculpts and some of these things that are coming out today, and we're saying there's no way it can get better unless we pump blood through it, or unless we, I don't know, it somehow just comes to life. But somehow they find a way to get better. What does that do to those older iterations, to those older versions? And we're going to have to keep that in mind as we go ahead and we move forward in this hobby for sure. It's something that I feel with all of these companies, you got the license for these IPs. You've got your very, very prominent characters. Tobey Maguire sells. Andrew Garfield sells. Tom Holland sells. Elizabeth Olsen sells. Scarlett Johansson sells. Brie Larson sells. She's coming out with another movie, okay? Those Marvel characters sell. Anne Hathaway sells. Michelle Pfeiffer would sell. Linda Carter would sell. Gal Gadot's gonna sell. Okay? Harley Quinn's gonna sell. Those DC women are gonna sell. Natalie Portman's gonna sell. Carrie Fisher's gonna sell. Daisy Ridley is going to sell. Yeah, Katie Sackhoff is gonna sell. So is Rosario Dawson. So are all the new female characters that are, coming out in Star Wars. Luke is always going to sell. Darth Vader is always going to sell. Han, are we ever going to get Han? That's going to sell. What if we get new versions of Han? What if everything's right with Harrison Ford and we get an upgraded Han Solo Stormtrooper from A New Hope, an upgraded Han Solo from A New Hope? We finally get a Bespin Han. We get a Return of the Jedi Han. We get an Artisan Han. What does it do to those old Hans? What if you got an upgraded? What if you got an Artisan Han Solo from The Force Awakens? What does it do to the original Force Awakens Han Solo? Can you imagine an Artisan Carrie Fisher from Leia Organa? From any of the sequel trilogy films. And regardless of what you think of the sequel trilogy, and you know what I all thought about The Last Jedi and what they did to Luke, I would be all into Carrie Fisher. Or Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford, anything from the sequel trilogy. Those characters are near and dear to my heart. That's Star Wars right there. What's going to happen? You look at right now. I'm just having a candid conversation with you. What's going to happen to the A New Hope farm boy Luke Skywalker when the new one comes out? What if it's available with roller guys function, sculpted hair, and Artisan? What does it do to the original farm boy one? Is that one going to go up like a stingray? Just being real with you. What's going to happen with the A New Hope Leia? Again, what happened to the older Iron Mans that are coming out now? That now with the new ones that are coming out. And what will happen again with the prior versions of Gamora when we get a new Gamora, and certainly on their docket, with the women that are in Marvel for sure, you're going to get Gamora here, an Artisan version. Absolutely, you heard it right here from the Hot Toys Wizard. It's something to keep in mind. And while there is low production on more and more announcements, and I'll say it the other way, more and more announcements, less and less production, and these are getting better and better. That's a great formula for instant grailability. But that doesn't rule out alternate versions or even the same versions that are upgraded some years or even sooner, but certainly years down the road. So always go into collecting toys and into the hobby with your eyes wide open, realizing that this is not an investment like your 401k. This is not like investing in gold or in certain things like that. You have to be really, really savvy, and you have to understand you're buying toys, and these prices and secondary market prices are volatile at best. And sometimes you do have to know when to hold them and when to fold them, meaning selling, so that you could go ahead and get into the new stuff that's going out there. Not if you've got buku bucks and you don't want to do that, that's fine. But certainly if you're always looking, struggling to try and get extra income, this is very, very, very important to be able to keep the money flow going to continue to collect and get what you love. And before we go ahead and dive into a couple of things that tie into everything I just talked about within the secondary market and primary market, briefly, how do we feel about the same characters coming out, improved versions of those characters? It's kind of a mixed bag for me. Certainly, I want more Luke Skywalker, but selfishly, I want a Hoth Luke on a Tauntaun, for sure. But honestly, with everything that they're coming out really with Luke now, to me is far superior than what we have gotten for the Return of the Jedi, both at the Jedi Knight version and then the subsequent Endor version, the regular or deluxe. And for what I'm seeing now, what they're coming out with the Mandalorian Luke and the DX-24-25 Luke, I'm kind of hungry. Hungry for a new Return of the Jedi Luke, especially if I could go ahead and get an artisan one or an improved one, because they've showed that they can improve upon it, and Mark Hamill and that head sculpt. But some people don't feel the same way. And with certain characters, I don't feel the same way. Like I'm looking at the Bo-Katan that they just came out with. And they're teasing like at least artisan type hair. At least you think it is. With another Bo-Katan. It's like we just got another Bo-Katan. You know, we're getting a Paz Vizsla. We just got a heavy infantry Mandalorian. I understand it's a different name. Too soon? But then again, wasn't that long ago, how many years just, for a Return of the Jedi Luke? But now I want a Return of the Jedi Luke, but I don't want another armorer. Because it's like, I understand it's a little bit different. It's a real interesting question, and I feel like it's got to be a balance act from all of these companies. This Superman, for instance, is amazing. One of the best pieces of art I've ever seen, definitely next level. As I also believe is that Elizabeth Olsen. But we have prior versions of this Superman. Do we want different versions? And if it would have been a dark suit Superman, well, we already got that one too. But we're improving upon it. And for me as a Luke fan, I want the improved Luke. So when is it good and when is it not good? And quite honestly, I don't think it matters. I think it's just whatever you like, is what I'm trying to boil down to. But if you're collecting for an investment, don't again collect this hobby like it's a 401k. Because this will most certainly affect the prior versions, which are pretty high, especially the last one, of Henry Cavill from Hot Toys. It just will. It will hurt it. Just like the InART Joker hurt the DX11. But now we're going to see what happens with the new DX Joker with the InART Joker and what that's going to further do to the Hot Toys Joker. It's just cause and effect. That's what business is. And that's the same thing with this. And this is certainly just going to affect, and the sculpted hair version, all the prior versions of Elizabeth Olsen and the Scarlet Witch. I mean, to me, this is, I won't get, for me personally, I'm not going to collect many different versions of Scarlet Witch, but this is the version I'm going to get. For sure. It is absolutely going to have an effect. And I think for those that are looking for exclusivity and these figures to be worth stuff, it's kind of like this Anakin. And if they come out with a dark side version of this, I'm sorry. It's going to affect this version. It just will. Especially if they offer it in sculpted. How do we feel about that? Would we rather leave those alone for as long as we left alone the Farm Boy Luke, the Bespin Luke, the A New Hope Leia, the Han Solo A New Hope, the Obi-Wan A New Hope, the Chewbacca A New Hope? Should we leave those along for that long? Should we not? And I'm telling you right now, I don't want to wait that long. for another Return of the Jedi Luke, but then again, I'm like a gigantic Luke freakazoid. And I know that some of you that are going to tell me that you will wait, but I'm just different that way. And as much as I like this Anakin, this artisan Anakin, I'd much rather have the Luke. Just being quite frank with you. But it's an interesting question. And it's not one easily answered. And then you could kind of put together, like I said, I was really on the fence with this Wonder Woman, but I wanted really to see the first artisan type of hair, and I'm so pleased. But I know they're going to come out with another one, Hot Toys. And I know InART's going to come out with one, and they're probably Hot Toys another one, or they'll put it out then. What does it do to this one? I don't know. Hopefully the 1500 holds up, but that's the whole point. I didn't invest in this like a 401k, but I'll keep an eye on it. I'll keep a very, very close eye on it. And I move stuff. It's just me. But would a new dark side Anakin affect this dark side? No. I won't underestimate Anakin's power, depending on a new upgraded version of Anakin, for sure. All right, let's take a look at some stuff in the secondary market. So what about the secondary market? And is it crashing? I say yes. Meaning that a lot of the figures that were very, very high are right now at this point not very, very high. For instance, when you go to Star Wars and you look at the solo movie Mud Trooper, right now very affordable at retail. It's not exactly a crash, but it's not trending up at $400 where it was. You're seeing a lot of that with a lot of the figures. And you're even seeing some of your grails, like your Chirrut Imwees, your Director Krennics. They're still very, very high. But sometimes you can go ahead and get them in the high threes and the $400 versus the high fours where they were. And you're seeing that all around with all the different figures. Sometimes you can find bargains, sometimes you can't. There's some where you can't find any bargains. For instance, very, very prominent characters or extreme rare ones like the Christopher Reeve Superman. On the contrary, that one's going higher right now, even in the economy with this situation. When you go ahead and look at the DX-15 Jack Sparrow, just going higher. Higher, higher, higher. The Jack Nicholson Joker from the 89 Batman, higher. Going higher. Han Solo, a New Hope Stormtrooper or a New Hope. I mean, you're talking about $600-700 for that particular figure. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Anakin, you're starting to see come down some, the regular Anakin from Revenge of the Sith. Does that have anything to do with the new artisan Anakin? And I believe that it does, whether people want to admit it or not. You're seeing that one come down. And you're still seeing Dark Side Anakin very, very high, but it's very, very unique. That's actually Darth Vader. But and not to digress, but Hot Toys already came out with a Dark Side version before and very successful with it. And they're seeing what that's doing in the secondary market. Would they not do it with the artisan one? Of course they're going to do it. When are they going to do it? I don't know. How are they going to do it? I don't know. But I really do believe an artisan version of that Dark Side Anakin is coming. And when people have always talked about, hey, that was an exclusive, and even though it's not going to be a sideshow one or they can remove the base, it's still kind of like, they put out that one. Why would they do that? Okay. So now let me go to your argument and be like, hey, listen, now they're just going to give you the artisan version. Maybe they won't give you sculpted of that one either. Maybe because they're planning that. And they're knowing that they're doing that with that head sculpt, which is why you're not getting the sculpted one for the artisan one, because they have every intention of doubling up on that artisan one, or maybe even making it even more than 3,000. Maybe that would be available at 4 or 5,000. I actually, Howard, if you're listening, you should, because if you thought that 3,000 of the regular one went, you offer a dark side version, that's going to go insane. And then there you go. That's not then your whatever that was Toy Fair exclusive from the original dark side version. Plus it has the rooted hair. But you're seeing that one hold. Of course, you're seeing your Tarkins and your figures like that. You're seeing your Yondus, your original 2 big beefy Hulks. You know, fetching big $600-$700, big money. What if they come out with a new Hulk? Even if it's limited, just 3,000 pieces or 4,000 pieces or 1,500 pieces, does it affect that Hulk? The prior was. What if they did that with Yondu? And what if they did that for Guardians of the Galaxy 3? They just gave you an updated Yondu. Will it affect that one? I think it'll give people an opportunity with everything that I'm mentioning here that missed out on from before to actually be able to get a Yondu now. Or be able to get this or to get that. But when you're putting more out there, that does bring more availability. And so now it waters it down some, even if it's a different version. Which still makes the prior version rare. But a lot of times with rolling eyes function, I don't believe the first Yondu had rolling eyes, I could be mistaken, but if there are improvements on it and it's actually better, then it actually, in some cases, takes away the value of those older versions. Again, case in point, why you shouldn't invest in toys like it's a 401k. It's just a completely different dynamic in that regard. So, for me personally, I invest in these virtually debt-free. And I've got a pretty vast collection. I got a new collection tour that's going to be coming up. But I'm very, very selective in what I buy. And I don't buy to sell, ever. But I do sell when I feel like it's time to sell. If I'm sitting on some figures that I know, like, I knew the DX07 was going to go down, but I don't intend on getting rid of that one. Unless I got to get out of Hot Toys or whatever. Then I guess I would sell it, but I don't care that one's going down. But certain figures I know that are going to go down, because newer versions are coming up, and I really don't want to actually showcase or be like, tell the story, or here was the first version of the approved to here. I'm going to move those. Because I don't have so much money where I could just take from here or take from there. I'm able to evolve my collection. I'm able to improve upon it. And there's nothing wrong with that, and I've been doing that for years. And there's nothing wrong with accumulating collectibles like a dragon as well. Dragons are very powerful. It's been proven through the ages, right? But I've been there and done that, and I've bought the t-shirt, okay? We've got a lot of stuff. Sometimes with certain collections, I don't just want to keep getting a lot of stuff. And quite frankly, with things that are so expensive, I just don't have the money to just keep buying it in and then not reciprocating it back. So, that's one way that you could go about doing this, being very, very selective in what you buy and paying attention to the secondary market prices and when things are starting to shift up and when things are starting to shift down. We have the market chart show that's coming out this weekend. 6scalecantina.com, my friends, is going to be completely updated with all the latest news on what's going on with Star Wars, Marvel, DC, all the IPs for Hot Toys. You're not going to want to miss this particular episode. It's going to show everything that's going to be refreshed and new within the biggest new mover section and also within the market value chart. You're not going to want to miss this coming weekend's episode for sure, as we dive into this further. But this episode was more of a conversation, a dissertation to kind of show you a little bit of tell you what's going on right here with a lot of these collectibles, and to be careful not to invest in these like it's your 401k. Does that mean that it still could turn out like your 401k, and some of them will never get released to them, and some of them, for whatever reason, or many of them, could increase in value? Absolutely. In like crazy amounts. But again, as I've been talking about over the last several weeks, it was a very interesting dynamic in the 70s and 80s with those toys. And then people discovering shortly in the 90s and into 2000s, like, oh my goodness, these things are worth so much because you can't find them in the packaging anymore. Now you can find everything in the packaging. And people have been trying to hold on to everything in the packaging, trying to recapture that magic, but it's just not there. The only magic that you can really get is if they put some of these out that are limited and saying, hey, it doesn't matter if you open up the package or not, we only made 300. We only made 1,500 of this special wizard juice. Now, that's not becoming organically rare. That's just right off the bat rare because they made less. And there's a lot of collectibles that do that. You know, from the Franklin Mint, or, you know, from this, from that, only 300 pieces. Well, you know, it's rare. And a lot of that is just as precious as some of the vintage things as well. And in some cases it's not, because in some cases it's not organic. It just really all depends. So just be very careful. I always follow. The reason I do this market stuff is I like to know with the collections I'm investing in, because these are collectibles, so I do invest in them. And there's been collectibles that I've gotten out of just so I could go ahead and reciprocate some money and get into some other collectibles. And then there's some where it's like I really just didn't give a crap, and I lost my shirt on, literally. Then it was fine. Still eventually got rid of them at bargain bin prices. Kind of hurt a little bit, but really didn't care. But I don't want to keep doing that forever. And what does that mean for some of the figures right now that seem to be in the bargain bin? Does that mean that they are done for, gone? Does that mean that when you go ahead and take a look at some of those figures, like for instance, that Iron Strange I had up earlier, you shouldn't buy it at this price, or if you could get it at a discount or even at the retail price? No. I don't think they'll ever put this out again. More collectors will be coming into this hobby. It's just right now where that price is. It's kind of like what you're looking at right now, this Empire Strikes Back Vader, especially this 40th anniversary figure. And right now you're able to get this at a really, really discounted price for various reasons that are going on right now with this economy and with the market. But I could tell you that there will never, ever be another release of an Empire Strikes Back Darth Vader in 40th anniversary retro packaging like this. And is that in the years to come going to go ahead and make this more sought after and valuable? And I say yes. I'm going to talk about this more on this weekend's market show, so tune in. I don't want to let everything out of the bag right now. Listen, if you enjoyed what you watched here today and you want to become a member of the channel, and I advertised this weekend, and I had to fly out on business, but I'm back. The show's already recorded, so I'm going to be putting it out over the next day or two. But this Cantina Insiders Extra, you see here some of these figures that are up on the screen. Are all of these under 4K production? And in light of what I said here today, even with these new versions coming out that kind of counteract, like you see with the DX07 to the DX24 or DX25, do these low production numbers actually save it from actually going down, playing devil's advocate, like the DX07 did because of the DX2425. If this Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and I'll talk about it on this episode, if this truly is around the same production numbers as that Wonder Woman, or turns out to be that way, if they do come out with an artisan of this, or somehow another version that's not artisan just is better than this in the future, does this save it in the many years to come from an upgraded version of the same exact version? It just might. You do have to ask yourself. But all you have to do, besides believe, is just click the little join button on the channel and join. It's cheaper than a dozen eggs in most places, baby. That's pretty cheap. Or a quart of oil. Or a quart half and half. And it's all one tier. And I always put out unique stuff like this. I do appreciate the support. I'll be putting this out in a day or two. It's already recorded. Smash the like button. Subscribe to the Cantina. Enjoy the hair. The hair is back. I have to sell my hats to pick up another figure. No, just kidding. I just wanted to show you the hair, baby. Because, you know, this is artisan. So, would you rather sculpted or artisan? Come on. I always have sculpted. So right now I put on the artisan. I don't always buy wizard juice out. But when I do, baby, I do it right here at the 6 scale home base of 6 scale podcast talk. 6 scale Cantina. Stay thirsty, my friends.
Squishy.